I finally watched the most recent Formula One race, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. I am very late. I apologize for whatever that's worth. I was out of town when it happened, away from my studio with my father. And then, I was on a different island. And then the NFL draft happened, and I'm like, look, I got to cover the draft. That's my bread and butter. I got to cover the NFL first. So finally, a week later, I have now watched the Emilia de Romagna. And there are a couple key takeaways from this race. We're learning, first of all, who's who in Formula One. The good teams, the bad teams, where everyone kind of falls in a ranking. And Red Bull had a great weekend, while Ferrari simply did not. So in the race, Lewis Hamilton, let's get to that in a minute. First of all, Red Bull had a 1-2 finish. Max Verstappen won and got fastest lap. Sergio Perez, their other driver, got second. Then Lando Norris finished off the podium for McLaren in third place. George Russell for Mercedes got fourth. Valtteri Bottas got fifth for Alfa Romeo. Kind of cool to see him. By the way, competing with Mercedes, but also beating Lewis Hamilton. In sixth, you had Charles Leclerc with Ferrari. And the other two noteworthy finishers in my mind for Haas, you had Kevin Magnussen getting points. Really cool to see Haas. They're way better this year. I love it. And then Lewis Hamilton was all the way back in 13th place. He did not look good at all. At all. And Lewis Hamilton had no pace all race. He couldn't pass Pierre Gasly's AlphaTauri. Even when he had DRS, he just could not find a way to get around that car. And it's very weird. I'm not used to seeing Lewis Hamilton have an embarrassing performance where all year it's just been different for Mercedes and for Lewis Hamilton. And I'm still not quite sure what to make of it. Now, inexplicably, for some reason I will not understand, we got half of the race without DRS. There was no drag reduction system, which, I remember makes it way easier to overtake during straightaways. It wasn't turned on until lap 35 of 63. The race started a little bit wet, but very clearly, like 15 laps in, you're like, okay, it's dry enough. We've got dry racing lines. Why are we not turning on DRS? And it wasn't until lap 35 of 63 that DRS got enabled by the race directors. They were being cautious. It was wet to start. Then there's looming rain and rain clouds and potential for wet conditions. I get it. But, man, the result was that Red Bull really, really got helped by not having DRS early on, because there were a couple times where Charles Leclerc, I thought with DRS, could have made a move and passed Sergio Perez for second place in the race if he'd had DRS. Now, Ferrari had a bad weekend. Carlos Sainz got hit by Daniel Ricciardo early on during the first lap. He had to retire early after he was stuck in the gravel. And then later in the race, because Charles Leclerc was still in third place behind Sergio Perez, he had a bad pit stop that was about a second too long, plus no DRS the entire race. The result was Charles Leclerc found himself in third place, which, put him... He was in striking distance of second, trying to make a move and catch up to Sergio Perez and put himself in a position where he could pass him. And being overly aggressive, he hit the curb, spun out, lost control of the car, was lucky actually not to, completely wreck the car. He was able to continue driving. But he went from battling for second place, spun out, and fell all the way down to P9. Awful stuff. Going from a podium spot all the way back to, he finished in sixth place, which is not terrible, but certainly a far cry from a podium, and really hurt him in the standings, both Ferrari's constructor standings and his driver standings. So this weekend, I guess last weekend, Red Bull and Max Verstappen gained a lot of ground at Imola. And I want to remind everyone, easy to kind of overlook this and forget this fact. It's kind of funny. We're only 4 races in, but Max has won every single race he has finished this year. We've had 4 races. He has retired early from 2 of them, and he's won 2 of them. So I think when Max is on the track and can finish a race, he's clearly right now the fastest guy in Formula One. And Imola felt like a potential turning point for Red Bull, where they've had some reliability problems early in the year. It's been a little bit skeptical. But right now in the constructor standings, after last weekend, Ferrari is in first right now with 124 points. Red Bull is a lot closer than they were in second place with 113 points, just breathing down the neck of Ferrari. Mercedes is in third with 77 points, and then McLaren is in fourth right now with 46 points. They have gotten so much better. It's clear after 4 races that the battle for first is Red Bull versus Ferrari. And then the battle for third, a really interesting, fun one, is McLaren versus Mercedes, who both have Mercedes-powered engines. And I love it. These fun battles have developed. I can't wait. And shout out to McLaren, man. From race 1 to now, 4 races in, they have made really big strides and gotten much, much better and a lot faster pace. And this battle, it's going to be awesome. Max Verstappen versus Charles Leclerc. If you look at the driver standings, Max Verstappen is in second place right now with 59 points. Charles Leclerc is leading Formula One with 86 points. But this is like, it's going to be really easy to close that gap in a race or two if one of them does really well, one of them does really bad. And I'm really excited for this battle between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen as the year goes on. Now, the shock of the year to me, though, is that Lewis Hamilton, if you look at the driver standings, is all the way back in 7th. And he's been outperformed wholeheartedly by his teammate George Russell, who's in his first year with Mercedes. And I just got to say, I'm not used to seeing Lewis Hamilton struggle. It feels weird. I'm not used to it. I'm like, at what point is Lewis Hamilton going to take a turn and just start dominating again, or at least start being competitive? At least start beating his teammate George Russell. It's very weird that we're still 4 races in and haven't really seen the best from Lewis yet. I'm like, I'm going to keep waiting, but I'm just waiting for that moment, and it hasn't come yet. Now, this coming weekend, Sunday, May 8th, we get to watch Formula One go to Miami. And I'm really excited. That's my home country. Never been to Miami. I'm going in August. And I don't know. I just think Miami's going to be a really fun, interesting, cool setting for a Formula One race. And I'm really hopeful for a good race this weekend. And guys, I love you. I'm sorry it took so long to get to the race. For those who want it, you got to hear my thoughts. For those who didn't, you skipped it a long time ago. But I love you very much. I appreciate you tuning in. And it's going to be, it already has been a really good Formula One season. And as the year goes on, it's just getting better and better. And I'm really happy with the kind of couple little battles we've found. I mean, Alpine versus Alfa Romeo is shockingly good. The battle for, I guess, 5th place. I mean, there's just a lot of really fun stuff going on in Formula One. And these little pockets of competitive battles are getting really interesting. And I'm so thankful that it's good. And I'm glad there's not one clear guy running away with the lead. To have Max and Charles Leclerc both battling for first is really interesting. And to have 2 teams, Ferrari and Red Bull, both competing hard and both having success, I love. So I feel really good about where Formula One is right now, and I'm just really glad that we're kind of being set up for a really great rest of the year.